Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to council for call meeting to order. I need a motion to accept the agenda. Moved by Clerk, second by Yvonne. Any additions to the agenda? Councilor Yvonne.
I'd like to add an item about the annual workshops that are on offer as part of our discussion items.
Okay. Any others? As amended, any further discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Those are here. Any declaration of continuing interest in the general nature thereof? Councilor Wade, is that just moving a hand or are you trying to indicate something?
just trying to figure things out here still. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me all right?
You have no declaration to make. The minutes of March 4th, 2025 meeting, movement and second for that. Moved by Gerson, second by Gillies. Any discussion on the minutes? Councilor Gillies.
I do under appointments, resolution 4. I think there's a little bit of confusion there. It talks about the Vincent municipal drain, and then in the next part, it talks about the Piper municipal drain, I think.
Any others? One there talks about the donation to Operation Sharon, it's $240. Any other errors and omissions? And then as amended, all those in favor?
Errors and omissions of your.
That's carried. Business Horizon Clerk's report, 16/2025. Do anything you want to talk about?
I don't have anything to add unless there's any questions.
Any questions from council on this one? Being none, we have a motion now. Moved by Dale, second by Clerk. Resolved recommendation, resolved council self adoption received report CL 16/2025 business records minutes of the March 4th, 2025 meeting as information. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. First appointment is for 6:35, and it's from Cedar Flaps. This is WP Canada Court. And I believe Tom Healy and Dylan Newcomb, close?
That's me, yes.
Okay, Dylan, come on up and make your presentation, please.
Go ahead. Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Mayberry and councillors, for giving us the opportunity to introduce our company to you, and as well also present this proposed project that we want to talk about today. My name is David Heidak. I'm the VP of Operations. With me today is Dilan Umutkan, our Communications Manager, then Tom Healy, our Senior Development Manager, and then Dave Hodgson, who is external consultant regarding the agricultural impact assessment that we're going to talk about later in the presentation as well. I will indicate the next slide, or if I. Yeah, so thank you. For today, as I said, we want to introduce a little bit our company, WPD, to you, then dive into why we're here today, and then share some more information on the project, the so-called Cedar Flats Wind project. And then Dave will give a bit of a more insight into the agricultural impact assessment, some more details around that. And then we really want to spend some time on the benefits that we think this project could bring to Southwest Oxford. And then close off with some details on how we're planning to do the community engagement, and then obviously open up the floor for questions and answers. Some background on WPD. The company is privately owned. The founders, Gernot and Klaus, they still own the company to this day, and the company was founded back in 1996 in Germany and has since really expanded globally across Europe to North America and Asia. And what we really want to highlight as a company is that our company is involved in all cycles of the development steps of a project, meaning we're getting involved in the early stage and finding suitable locations for projects, working with municipalities and the regulators to get the permits, and then build the projects and own and operate the projects. So we're really covering the full cycle all the way from origination to then also decommissioning the project. In Canada, we've been active since 2009, and we've already successfully realized projects across the province, as you can see. And those were also developed with the model that I explained, really from early engagement and securing permits to building, owning, and operating. And this model has proven to be quite successful for us, as I said, with the other markets internationally. And that's the model that we want to continue applying here in Canada and Ontario specifically. We're also active in other provinces across Canada, and that's in Brunswick, British Columbia, and Alberta as well. Now into the reason why we're here today. As you might know, there's a growing demand for energy in the province, and the independent system operator of Ontario, the ISO, is projecting a growth of 75% by 2050. And this is mostly driven by more greenhouses in the Leamington area, for example, than all the auto plants that have been attracted by the clean grid here in Ontario in the area. And then also some electrification of industries like the steel up north. And then also the personal choice in terms of switching to electric vehicles. And all of this is really driving this growth that we're seeing in Ontario. And the ISO, the system operator, has planned to satisfy this need with new competitive procurements in the province. And one of those energy sources is supposed to be wind. And they're launching RFP process, request for proposal process this year. And there are going to be multiple procurement processes over the next 4 years to really meet that energy demand that we're seeing over the next decade. The reason why we're here in Southwest Oxford is there's multiple reasons. One, there's good wind resource here, which has been proven by a lot of the testing that has been done already in the region. There are multiple options to tie into the transmission system here in the power lines, and there's existing infrastructure in terms of road for the farming activities. So those are just 3 examples of how we look for suitable locations, and in South Oxford, that really fits all those spots. With that, I'll hand it over to Tom now to share more details on the project itself.
Thank you, David. So the Cedar Flats project, the concepts that we have at the moment, this is still in very early stages of development, but the concept we're developing is for up to 200 megawatts of generating capacity. And that could be somewhere between 30 and 35 turbines, and would power around 80,000 homes. The area you see on the map is the area we're investigating for this potential project, and it stretches from wards 1, 2, and 3 in Southwest Oxford. The exact size of the project, we're still very early, as I say, we're just gathering data about the site at the moment and the land that we're looking at. So we don't have a design to share with you at this stage, but we will do that as we develop the project in the future. So some of the activities we've done to date, we've been engaging with First Nations communities to talk about potential partnership in this project. We really want to be able to offer the potential for investment in the project by local community members. So we've been talking to an experienced renewable energy co-op that might help to facilitate investment in the project. The people who know the land best are the people who farm it. And so we've been talking to our landowners to understand their business better and figure out what their ongoing operations are involved and how we could fit that and how we can design the project to fit in with their farming operations. And as I say, there's been an ongoing program of environmental surveys. We're working with some biologists to understand what sensitive habitats and species make use of the land. So this timeline, this is sort of a high-level overview of what the project could look like over time. The main thing I would point out on this slide is that the bidding process for contracts, the deadline as it stands right now is October of this year. So we're preparing to submit this project into that bidding process. In order to do that, we would need a municipal support resolution from you to participate. So that would give us permission to participate in that bidding process. And in the lead up to that, we're doing this public engagement. So we want to do some public information sessions, tentatively scheduled them for later in April. And, we'd like to get your feedback, make sure those dates are suitable. We're going to be doing an agricultural impact assessment, which Dave will speak a bit more about. But we've just started the first sort of steps of that by engaging with your planning staff to make sure we're designing that assessment in the right way. And we plan to be in front of you again as many times as you need us to be here in order to answer questions and field questions from the community members as well. So with that, I'll hand over to Dave to talk about the agricultural impact assessment.
We'll be looking after the agricultural impact assessment, and with respect to this type of project, it's a two-phase assessment where phase one looks at the assessment of reasonable alternative locations within the township. That's based on Canada Land Inventory and the agricultural reserve definition within the Oxford County official plan. Should the contract be awarded, then we would do a full agricultural impact assessment to the guidelines that were presented by the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, Draft Agricultural Impact Assessment Guidance Document, March 2018. We've been speaking with the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, and there will be a new set of guidelines coming out, and if they come out during this process, we will update the ag impact assessment to those new guidelines and standards. Back to you, Tom.
So to talk about some of the potential benefits of this project, aside from the payments we make directly to the landowners who are involved in the project, who receive a stable income for the 20+ years the project will be operating, we want to design a series of community benefits that could also be experienced by the wider community as well. So there's a community benefit fund that we will establish, and we want to gather feedback now and during our open house events so that we know how best to structure that and make sure it's meeting the needs of the community, directing funds to where they would like it to go. There will be additional tax revenue from the project paid by the project, and that will be obviously that will come to the municipality to support municipal infrastructure. There's a significant capital investment in a project like this, so there will be a lot of local contracting opportunities during construction and eventually during operation as well. There are there's direct employment involved in that construction activity and also during operation. Our most successful projects are always the ones that make use of local contractors that we establish relationships with early so that we know who to go to when we come to build the project and operate the project. And then there's additional local stimulus just from the activity that would be going on in the area during construction and operation that would be felt by other businesses in the area. So to speak a bit more about the Community Benefit Fund, as I said, we're really looking to get feedback about this. So we have some ideas of how we can structure this, but we really want it to be led from community feedback. So this could take a number of forms. We could direct it to an existing organization that is already doing community projects. Maybe there are, sort of projects to refurbish certain facilities in the area or something like that. We could, have the fund administered by that kind of organization. Energy funding. So our product is obviously energy. We generate electricity, and we talked about, well, we can't sell you electricity directly, but how could we fund electricity for neighbors of the project? And that could be done by some kind of direct payment to residents. And then environmental conservation is very important to us. And so we could also seek to try to direct funding towards organizations that, again, are in the business of conserving the local environment. And then, as I say, these are three concepts that we talked about, but really we'd like to gather feedback on this, and that's what a big focus of the information sessions will be. So yeah, I've spoken a little bit about the community outreach, but what we want to make sure is that, you know, for now there isn't a lot of information we have about the project, but we want to make sure everyone knows where to find answers and knows how they can stay in touch with us. So we will be doing 2 public information sessions, one in South West Oxford and one in Malahide. We're looking at the week of April 28th. So if there's any events we should know about that it would be a bad idea to do it in that week, please let us know. We have a project website set up, and yeah, the address is there, but there's also a QR code at the end of the presentation to scan. And on that website, you can sign up for the newsletter where we'll be releasing regular updates about the project. And then there's an email address there where people can direct inquiries to, so that we know, so that we've got a list of questions, so that we know when we turn up to these information sessions what it is people want to talk to us about. Yeah, with that, thank you for your time today, and yeah, I'd like to take your questions.
Well, thank you very much. Questions from council? Go ahead, Councilor Berger.
Well, I have a few questions, Mr. Mayor. What size are these towers? At least the large ones?
Yeah, so we haven't selected a turbine yet, but I can say typically, like the modern turbines that we would look at these days will be of the larger scale than the ones that are currently operating. So they typically are 200 to maybe 220 meters in height, total height.
Yeah, so they're the larger ones.
Yeah. So what happens is, over the years, the technology's developed. Today's turbines generate sort of 6 to 7 megawatts, which is equivalent to 3 or 4 turbines from 10 years ago, let's say. So it means you can build a project of this size with much fewer turbines.
The turbines manufactured in Canada?
The supply chain is global. They typically come from all over the world and are assembled here. So yeah, there aren't manufacturing facilities currently in Canada.
Last question. You have leases in place?
We do, yeah. We have some participating landowners right now. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Councilor.
I would just make a comment that the information sessions the week of April 28th, depending on how the spring goes, that's usually when farmers get really busy on the land. And so if you're hoping to catch them as part of the audience of those evenings, you might want to either move it ahead or move it back a little bit.
Great, okay, yeah, appreciate that feedback.
Any other questions or comments? So you don't have a contract with AESO yet?
That's correct, yeah.
And I think you said you needed a support resolution from council before you can submit a contract. First, submit a request for a bid on a project. So,
That's correct.
so you're going to be bidding against everybody else in the province that wants to generate electricity at the same time.
That's right, yeah. And the whole point of that is to make sure that the projects that can deliver the power most economically will succeed. So, I mean, what's different about this new procurement process is that we have to compete for that contract, and the best, most economic projects will succeed in that process.
Okay. And so the timeline for you, and I guess what I'm getting at is the timeline for you is that you need that support before an agricultural assessment is finished. You need it before October. I forget what the day is in October, but and you need to have council's support and probably understanding. So the councilor gives this comment, I would suggest that your April 28th day is probably later than it should be. So I think after, that time in April, all bets are off as far as farmers are concerned, so, and I think, you need, this wider group here. Under the agricultural impact assessment, I'm curious about, Dave, what you actually have to study. And if it's, is the agricultural land here in, Ward 2 better or worse than the agricultural land in Ward 4 or 5 or Malahide or somewhere else? Because you're gonna have a tough time in southwestern Ontario finding agricultural land that's not good.
That's the problem. We do agricultural impact assessments all over Ontario. We've been doing them for many years now. Part of the process of doing agricultural impact assessment is to do an alternate site search. In this instance, through this process, that's phase one of this system. But on a typical agricultural impact assessment for other developments, the alternate site search is a component of the agricultural impact assessment report. We look at so many different things that are related to agriculture. So to start off, we have to define all the policy, provincial, municipally, that relates to agriculture and whatever the development happens to be. In this case, it's a wind project. We have to take a look at the existing land use, the farm operations, farm structures, tile drainage. We take a look at the soils information from the Canada Land Inventory System, which in Ontario, there's digital soils data available from the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Agribusiness. They just recently changed their name. So we take all this information, we put it all together, we document the potential impacts. We provide mitigation to offset the potential impacts. And at the end of the report, we've provided the information that says, look, here's what exists, here's the impacts that could occur, and here's the mitigation to offset those impacts. And that's the standard process anywhere in Ontario following the ministry's draft agricultural impact assessment guidance document. So it's a very detailed process. There are a few companies in Ontario that actually do these correctly according to the ministry. We happen to be one of them. They have asked for some of our documentation to put up on their website, but we can't give it out because it's proprietary, it's owned by the client. So the process is tried and true, but they are coming up with a new set of an update to the draft guideline. And they're also coming up with another bit of information that relates to the alternate site search to really try and hone that down, because it's not particularly well spelled out from either the ministry or ISO, although there is some documentation and presentations that they put together that says for the alternate site search, you need to take a look at. The first step is to take a look at prime agricultural areas, which is the agricultural reserve as defined in the official plan schedules. So in this township, pretty much the entire township is part of the agricultural reserve. So that gets back to your comment about the soils being good. So in the prime agricultural areas, the Canada Land Inventory is pretty much class 1 to 3. So if all the lands are the same in the sense that they're within the agricultural reserve, then the process says you need to look at lands of poorer capability. So with the class 1 being the best, class 2 has some limitations, class 3 has more limitations than class 1. So if you're looking at the agricultural reserve, you try to look for those lands of class 2 and class 3. And there's the digital database your soil polygons can also have 2 or 3 components within it. And those secondary and third components are also looked at as part of the Canada Land Inventory to try and document poor quality lands within a soil polygon within the agricultural reserve area. So it's this sort of detailed process. It isn't particularly well spelled out from OMAPRA, but that's the way it's supposed to work according to PPS.
So agricultural impact assessment. What I heard you just describe was more about impacting land use rather than actually impacting land or livestock.
It's all part and parcel. It's all within the document. We should discuss potential impacts of livestock operations as well.
Okay. So that was going to be really where I was going with it. Is land or any kind of positive or negative impact on the productivity of land or lifestyle. Correctly, that, I guess what I'm asking, if that's covered in the.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Okay, that's anyone else? Okay, well, thank you very much for the presentation. No doubt we will see you again, and any suggestion as to where you're gonna have your open house?
We haven't picked a specific location yet. If there is a recommended venue, then please let us know. But we are looking into it right now.
Yeah, we were gonna go take a look tomorrow.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Brownsville Community Center is probably a larger area venue and lots of parking.
Okay, perfect.
If I could just mention one thing through Mayor Mayberry. Planning staff did put together a terms of reference outline for agricultural impact assessments in other studies. And we shared that with WPD and with staff as well. So hopefully this will help people who have to do AIAs as part of their project, whether it's an energy project or any type of project that requires an AIA. And we'll be continuing to update it as people identify needs and as OMAFRA updates their own guidelines. So it does lay out some of the issues that you mentioned this evening. So it's pretty comprehensive. You're welcome.
Any further questions? Okay, well, thanks very much, and we look forward to the open house.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's now 7 o'clock, so we have a committee of adjustment. The motion to advise the committee of adjustment. First and second by Gillis. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And round committee of adjustment, I need a motion to accept the agenda. Moved by Pickard, seconded by Justin. Oh, sorry, seconded by Ray. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general mentioned thereof? Minutes of the February 18th Committee of Adjustment Committee meeting. The mover and seconded, moved by Evans, seconded by Gillis. Any errors or omissions in the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And we're now down to minor variance application 80225 for Andrew and Linda Ring. Do you want to come up to the table, please? So the way this process works, the planner will shoot the report, explains it all to council. Council has not, well, the actually committee of adjustment needs to go to council. They have an opportunity to ask some questions for clarification. And then you'll have your opportunity to make any comments you want to make. And then we'll file it and then public wants to speak. Ask any questions or make any comments. And then committee will. Okay. So, please.
Great, thank you. Mayor Mayberry, members of council, staff, and members of the audience. I'm happy to be presenting this application for minor variance. I'd like to thank Andrew and Lindsay for working with me and trying to meet with me and talking to me so many times about this to make sure we get it right. So they are proposing relief from zoning bylaw provisions to facilitate the construction of a new detached garage for the storage of their recreational vehicle. The proposed garage is, I'm just going to use square feet, 1,100 square feet and 20 feet in height. The garage would be in addition to an existing 228 square foot shed on the property. So if you look at the map above you can see where the subject property is. Actually, Julie, would you mind scrolling down to is there a schematic? The next one, sorry, the other row. Sorry. That's okay, right there. So you can see the shed in the top left corner. The proposed garage is in the right. Their house is down the bottom. Thank you, Julie. So their proposal to add the garage would result in a total lot coverage of 1,328 square feet dedicated to residential accessory buildings. And that's about 7% lot coverage. They've requested 2 variances to increase the maximum lot coverage from 75 square meters or 807 square feet, that's the total maximum right now, to 1,328 square feet. So that would include the proposed garage and the existing shed. They've also applied to increase the maximum permitted height from 5 meters, which is 16.4 feet, to 6.1 meters, which is 20 feet. Staff has added some additional variances, and I did discuss it with Lindsay and Andrew to make sure we were all on the same page. Because this lot was created before the adoption of the zoning bylaw, it does not meet all of the provisions in the R1 zone. This is very common. A lot of lots were created before the bylaw was adopted, so we have what we call legal non-conforming lots. So in this case, because there is a planning application, we're proposing additional relief to recognize the existing lot area, lot frontage, and lot depth, and they're included in the report. As I mentioned, I have spoken with Andrew and Lindsay about this. So as you can see on the map, the property is located on the north side of Glen Avenue between Dodge Line and Trillium Line. There's a house and a shed currently on the property. In terms of surrounding land uses, surrounding land uses are also R1 residential land uses to the east, west, and south, and agricultural land uses to the north. As with all applications, we circulated this to various departments and agencies. The Building Services Department commented that if this is approved, a condition will be that the applicants confirm the location of the septic system on the property to the satisfaction of the township before a building permit is issued. And this is to ensure that any proposed construction, any future construction would not negatively impact the septic system or other properties or their ability to maintain the septic system. So the applicants have been in discussion with building services staff about this. They weren't able to do it before this meeting just because of the snow coverage. So that is a condition if this is approved. The Township Clerk's Department also provided comment that they're supportive of the applicant's proposal to provide indoor storage for a recreational vehicle. The township's preference is that RVs are stored indoors rather than in a driveway, and that is mainly due to complaints received in the past due to RVs being stored in driveways in other parts of the township. We provided public notice on February 20th, 2025. No comments were received by me. I believe the clerk did receive questions just regarding the proposal, just questions of clarification, but did not receive any concerns. In terms of our analysis, we look at the official plan, we look at the zoning bylaw. The property is located within the village designation and a settlement area. And it's anticipated, we expect to see growth and effective use of infrastructure and properties and land within these areas. And as the intent is to permit residential uses and accessory buildings, I'm satisfied that this application meets the intent of what these lands are intended for, to be used for. In terms of the zoning bylaw, as I mentioned, as this lot was created before the adoption of the bylaw, the lot area, lot frontage, and depth don't meet the current lot provisions, as with many other properties in this neighborhood. The minimum lot provisions for coverage and height, so what the applicant has applied for relief from, are intended to provide for items like adequate drainage, access, amenity space, and to ensure privacy and compatibility with their neighboring properties. In this case, staff is of the opinion that as this property backs onto agricultural land and the garage has been located in the rear yard behind the house, it's set back sufficiently from Glen Avenue North and won't interfere with traffic or the use of neighboring properties. The proposed garage maintains a reasonable rear yard for amenity space and continued compatibility with neighboring properties. Staff are satisfied that the garage is in keeping with the policies of the official plan, and I also believe that recognizing the existing lot configurations is reasonable, and that the property is large enough to accommodate the garage, the proposed garage, and the existing development, the existing house, and the existing shed. I'd like to note that the applicants have discussed the proposal with me, the Building Services Department, and their immediate neighbors. and are working to ensure that the proposed garage is located in a way that does not negatively impact adjacent properties or the functioning of the septic system. So it's the opinion of this office that the requested relief is minor and maintains the general intent of the official plan and bylaw and can be given favorable consideration. And I'm very happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
And any questions from council for clarification from committee? Clarification? Couple then,
Yes,
the lot is on county water.
pardon me?
The lot is on county water now.
Yes. So yes, it is, yes,
Okay.
just not on septic. Yeah.
And, the requirement for side yard setback for this building would be,
I believe it's 3.1. I'll double check that.
1 meters.
Correct. The, as part of the consultation with the building services staff, when they do confirm the location of the septic system, they will also work with the applicants to ensure that the garage is located within the required setbacks from the side yard.
But I was wondering what is the building that's taller and, the amount of runoff and all that in the building.
Right.
Sure it stays on there.
Yeah, so that'll be part of the discussion with the building services staff. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilor Becker.
Thank you for the ringers. I meant to ask you if you were gonna have the eave troughs on this building, because it is a large building. We don't want the water running onto the roofs.
No.
So the eave troughs?
Yes.
Okay, no other questions? So the applicants, any comments you want to make? You satisfied with the report?
Yep.
Anyone in the audience want to speak to this application, either in favor or opposed? Seeing no, okay, so, it's now up to, the committee to make a decision. Council Becker.
Approve?
Moved by Tucker, seconded by Yvonne. Any discussion? Being done, to approve commit, would contain the, concerns around the subject and,
It is a condition of the approval. Yes.
okay. That's the intent of the motion.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that aspect. I see the location is away from the septic system. I'm more worried about the building that's already there. Assume it's, you know where this, that leaking bed is, vis-a-vis the building and center now.
No.
It's gotta be pretty close.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's good. And is there a deal? No bid, okay. So, good to go. We now need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Gillis, second by Thurston. Clayton, just adjourn and adjourn council. All those in favor? Opposed? That's good. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
We'll get on to the next item.
See ya.
Okay. We'll wait. All right, let's go to staff reports, the building report and BDO report.
Oh, okay, just get there. So the report before council tonight is BD 4/2025. It's the February 2025 building report with activities, et cetera, carried by Daniel Duke. Inspector. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on this report? Councilor, Phillips, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Allen, I'd like to report, I do like the line on there, it says number of full-term permits that are closed. I appreciate that. Moving forward, would it be possible also to add a line active permits? That way we don't know how many active permits to work. Other than that,
Moved by Ellis, seconded by Thurston. Result of council of township supervisors to report equal 4/2025, February 2025, building report as information. Anything further? Things are a little bit slow this year.
Time of year, I think, pick it up.
Well, and Valley will also be down. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Okay. Okay. Then the deferred CO 14/2025, this is the proposal for the bylaw, or sorry, for the consent agenda item. Go ahead, Julie.
Okay, so this report was deferred at the March 4th meeting. There was some conversation on council at that time about adding provisions for a consent agenda for the township's procedural bylaw. I do note that we do have some sections of our agenda that kind of already act like a consent agenda. So if we were to include this, it would really just move those items to a consent agenda. I know council expressed that they did not want the accounts payable report on there. There could be other staff reports that are being presented for information only that could also be added to a consent agenda. But really it's up to council. If you would like to make that change, it is a way to speed some things up. I don't know that we really experience too many issues in that regard. But our current agenda and information items and our information and correspondence items do at times act as an agenda in a way. So anyways, I'm open to council's thoughts and just looking for direction on if you want us to include that in the final version of the procedural bylaw.
So at the last meeting, Councillor Pickard and Councillor Wade weren't here, so we wanted to give them an opportunity to comment if they wanted to.
I like the way it's done now, and I do not find it burdensome.
Councillor Wade, comments from you? I think you're on mute.
Try that. How's that?
That's better.
Okay. I'm okay with the consent, bundling things together. If council member would like to discuss the item, he has that option of having it removed from the consent agenda part of it, so I'm okay with it. I think it's not a bad idea, and like the clerk said, some of our reports, we kind of bundle them now. Near the end of the meeting, we bundle a lot of our bylaws together, so we're kind of doing it now, and I don't think it's gonna hurt to add to it.
Okay. So, the request from staff is to provide direction. We now have one on both sides of that discussion. Somebody's gonna make a motion.
Well, I haven't had the advantage of hearing the other councillors speak to this, so.
No, you have. Does anybody else want to speak to it? Councillor, you have to go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just reiterate my comments from the last meeting that the concept of this does make me a little bit nervous, let's say, that things might get missed. I would agree that largely what we consider agenda items and correspondence, as well as information items and correspondence, effectively act that way. So if we wanted to group those two bundles together under a consent agenda, I would be fine with that, but I would not want to see staff reports or the account payable report be part of the consent agenda.
Any other comments? Councillor Dills.
I would agree with Councillor Yitman's comments. I haven't had a whole lot of experience with that type of agenda before, but I think we do on a general basis sit through our agenda pretty good. But if it would help to try and do some of those things like that, I'd be willing to give it a try.
So that's your direction. So, what's the motion? Your staff are looking for, Councilor Young.
I'll move that that we implement the consent agenda, but that we only include, information items and correspondence and, where's the other section? Agenda items and correspondence, so that we only include those two things at this point in time as part of the consent agenda.
We had committees.
Committee minute. Yeah, that would be acceptable.
Discussion on that? The nice thing about this is you can always change it, back. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed? Here. All right, now 7:15, and we'll go back to the follow-up to the purchase request, CL 17.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to provide an update on the request received from Teresa the Tax to purchase a portion of the Henrietta Street road allowance, which abuts her property on Raglan Street. Since this matter was initially brought forward and circulated for public comment, staff have received additional expressions of interest in the lands from neighboring property owners, and there's been further discussion regarding the potential development proposed by Ms. Patako planning staff. As part of the review process, staff circulated notice to surrounding residents within 120 meters of the subject lands. In response, we received a petition in opposition to the sale, written objections, and additional requests from neighboring property owners who have expressed interest in purchasing portions of the road allowance themselves. Concerns raised by the public include ongoing maintenance of the lands themselves over the last several years, potential drainage impacts, potential impacts on existing wells, and other environmental considerations. Tonight's meeting is intended to provide council with a summary of the feedback received through the public consultation process and to allow for questions and discussion. Additionally, this meeting provides an opportunity for council to consider any further input from members of the public in attendance tonight. Given the feedback received and the questions that have come up regarding the planning implications, it may be beneficial to defer a decision tonight. However, the staff report has outlined several different options that council could consider. I will just try to explain a little bit the map that I included with the report here. So in the registry system, the entire road allowance runs from Raglan Street and it goes all the way down. The portion that is subject to the request from Ms. Patak is from Raglan Street, and it goes to about a quarter of the way through the third property on Oxford Street. I've highlighted in red property owners that have also expressed interest in the lands under the same purchase conditions. There has been some conversation about the possibility of splitting portions of the road allowance, whether that could allow for other property owners to also purchase a portion of it. However, the intended request for severance includes possibly 2 lots here, and the entire width would be needed to provide access to the 2 lots. So there would be a 10-meter frontage on Raglan Street for one of the lots, and then another 10-meter frontage for on Raglan Street for the second lot. I'm happy to answer any questions that council might have. And as I mentioned tonight, it's really just to hear from members of the public and for council to ask any further questions.
So questions from council. Councilor Clerk.
So as I understand, can we create a landlocked parcel there at the far end? That would be all, would that be all landlocked?
Not entirely. There is actually a small laneway here that the township owns.
Who maintains that now? That laneway.
We don't actively maintain it unless
Grass,
there's.
grass, yeah, grass laneway.
Any other questions on this?
So just for clarity, Julie, this tax residence, is that the one that's in behind the 2? Great,
It's up here.
great, okay.
And so the entire parcel, it's actually cut off a bit on this map, but the entire parcel is here.
that driveway, there is another house, is there not, along Franklin Street?
There is, yes.
And that's not owned by her?
No,
So,
it's a separate lot.
township also owns it, it's north.
Township owns this road allowance here
As well.
as well, yes.
Council,
On the plate shown, what is the highlight area at the very top, left-hand corner, that yellow strip across?
Right here,
No? To the north. Right there.
this, so that is an unopened road allowance in Sora Township.
Okay.
The boundary is on the south side of that road allowance.
any other questions? Council Clerk.
So I'm missing something here. Why is this land important to the purchaser? There seems to be lots of other land there. Should need a driveway or,
Yes.
oh, that's it, it is a driveway.
Well, that would be the intent, would be to be a driveway into two lots.
There's no driveway at the other one?
You can look it up.
Laura, do you
Yes.
want to comment?
Yeah, to create a residential lot, you need to have frontage onto a municipal road. So if those lots were created without, you can't create them without frontage. So the intent of purchasing the road allowance is to provide frontage onto the municipal road, access to the municipal road.
Council, yeah.
That begs a question through you to Laurel then. In Delmer, there was a home, people that I knew, had a home, and they just extended their own personal driveway out behind their home to the south of their home. Headed east with that second driveway and built a second house on their property. So there's only one driveway servicing both homes.
Was this? What, so it was probably just one lot though, not, so the intent here is to create separate municipal lots,
Okay,
not,
okay.
okay?
Council Clerk, do you want to?
Well, the other thing I've heard is there's multiple people interested in this.
So,
Okay, we've got to be fair to everybody. Hear about that.
okay. Julie, you wanted to say?
Sure, so I just brought up the map that was presented in the original request, just to explain, try to explain a little bit better. So this here is the Henrietta Street Road allowance. Okay, and then you can see on here, the sketch for potentially having two lots to develop here, okay? So there's a 10-meter frontage for the first lot here, and then a 10-meter frontage for the second lot here. But in order to proceed with an application for severance and for zoning, Ms. Patak would need to own this land,
Oh,
right? Well, she would need to own at least to here, and there would be a remaining piece of the road allowance that the township would still own.
Council, yeah.
On that slide, Julie, at the top, then that's a separate property?
Up here,
Yes.
that's Ms. Patak's property. This is a piece of the entire parcel that I showed on the other map.
So that lot to the north then, does that front onto the road allowance from Zora?
This one? No, it fronts onto Raglan.
No.
Yes, it does.
This is the tax property, the
Right.
driveway is off of,
Right.
Oh, it's off the right, right.
Sorry, it's,
right,
If you could excuse me for a second.
No, sit down. Go ahead, Council, yeah.
does it abut the property? I used the wrong word. Does it abut the Zora Township road allowance?
yes, it does. Her driveway, can you see on this? So the house is here and the driveway comes down out onto Raglan. This is Raglan Street. And the driveway comes in here. Right, and then there's the road allowance, and this is coming off of it, but the two lots are proposed in here.
Okay. Need some kind of understanding for council. Councilor Wade, do you want to have any questions, and then we'll get to the vote. Councilor Wade, okay. Councilor Gillis.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I think there's some challenges with this property. I understand why the proponent wants to buy the road allowance to have access to be able to create those two lots. I think, the topography of the land has some slope there. And obviously, I think the public or residents are probably concerned about drainage and other impacts on their property, at this time.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so, Mr. Pack, did you want to comment first, and then we'll go to the public? Right.
More to comment.
So the representation that was up here is accurate in your mind, that you want the full lot, the full road allowance for that first distance to basically the edge of the second block.
Yes.
Okay, so
Preference.
that's what you're looking for, okay. So now, since it is public land and municipality can do what it wants with it, we do like to hear from the neighbors. So if you want to speak, come up to the table, tell us your name, your address, and then you can make a comment. And make sure you tell us which one you're at. So, come on up. One at the top.
Sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
my name's Glenn Brown. I live at 4648 Oxford. I'm here to say that I'm one of the neighbors that offered to purchase the property adjacent to the back end of mine, and I was turned down by council 2 years ago. And if you're planning on selling that land, I'm here to suggest that you give every neighbor that is adjacent to that property the opportunity to purchase it. I understand I'm not the only one that wants to purchase it, or also, they have also put in a request to purchase it. I think it's only fair that you take all the neighbors' rights and opportunities, not just one. I'm not opposed to the Mrs. Pack building houses back there. I feel that she could probably access that property in other means, for what I can see on the map myself, but I'll leave that up to council.
So which lots are yours?
Mine is 46 and 48. Now, the parcel that she wishes to buy does not come directly behind my property, but it might affect me if they build their drainage and everything else and affect the wells, which we don't know.
So, under lot, early site plan control, we can't have more on the property. So, in this particular case, I'm not arguing one way or another, I'm saying, in this particular case, Mr. Pack would be responsible for getting the water off the property and not dumping it on anybody else.
Correct.
Whether that's a ditch or whatever, but, so the runoff may or may not be an issue, but, the municipality through an engineer would have some type of site plan control that says you gotta get the water, or you can't just dump the water on your neighbor.
Right.
So, and then you made a comment about the well, I'm just trying to make sure I got all my notes here.
Right, the wells. I'm worried about the wells that are existing wells. If she drills new wells up there and alters the property in any way, she may change the water table there, which means some of the wells may dry up or may have problems in the future. And I would like, if this happens, I would like something to fall back on.
You have a drilled well or dug well or?
I have a drilled well.
Okay. Any other comments or concerns that you have? Just making sure I got a list of them there.
No, main one is, I think we all should have the opportunity to purchase the land adjacent to our lots.
interested, and I'm just questioning here, I'm not pushing, but you'd be interested in purchasing the road allowance immediately behind yours, which may or may not be part of, what this is trying to do.
Correct. Correct.
And the price of that was.
25, I think it's $2.21 per square foot.
So you got a number you can be thinking about as well.
Yes, thanks.
Any other comments or concerns?
No, that's it for me.
All right, anyone else want to speak? What? Name and address, please.
11 Raglan Street,
And the name, please.
Ed Ellis. I have another map here that doesn't actually show what you guys show there. This is the one I wanted to show you. It shows Queen Street up at the top of your property.
Okay. Thank you. Just give us a second, while she gets that map, so everybody gets a copy, and then we can have it back.
Or is it trying to go up?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we don't want to speak, so. Okay. Okay, so go ahead, please, Ralph.
Okay, I read here somewhere that if we didn't get the 33 feet abutting our properties, that she would be landlocked with those 2 lots. But there are other alternatives like Queen Street at the top. And further down the page, you look at 132, 133, 134. That totals up to over 100 feet. She could actually put another 2 driveways in alongside that one, past her house, to service those 2 lots she wants to open. And the other question I had was, my property is right there where them septic tanks are going. And it looks like one of the tile beds, I can't tell with this little map, but it looks like it's very close to the lot line. Now, her property's up here, mine's on a slope down. And every spring, for about a month, water seeps out of the banks. And I had to put a swale in across the backyard to catch it and drain it off down the side. And I'm kind of concerned about a septic tank being that close to the property. It looks like it's fairly close, but I don't know measurements. Can't read them. And I'm kind of concerned about if something happens to septic, then it's going to flow into my property. There is a lot of water coming out of that bank every spring. So. The other question was, there's a well up there. And it's not a drilled well, it's a tile well. And my understanding was they used to use that for water years ago. And, yeah, up in the same area where they want to put those tile beds. Water table's high in there, I guess, because I don't even know how deep the well is, but there's I believe at one time they used to use that for fresh water. And if that's the water table, then I don't know if the tile bed should actually be up in that area where the well is. And then that map you got, part 5, that's the property I live on. That's part of the property that she wishes to purchase. It was right by mine, so I've been after this for years, but I've been looking after it since 1992. And I was interested, I was down here in 22, but, and it wasn't for sale at that time. So when this opportunity came up, I figured to take a chance to see if we could get it.
So the issue, I just kind of going down the list of things I've got written down here for is, the concern around septic, and how close it is to the, septic has to be so far away from the property line. And it has to meet, the test.
Percolation test.
Yeah, perturbation test, but, make sure that it doesn't, go beyond the property line. So that test hasn't obviously been done, so there's no way of actually knowing, and the building official will be, good septic official will be responsible for that. Access to Queen Street, is a non-starter for us because we don't own Queen Street. So, and I'm not sure what the board's interested in selling it or not, but.
What about Queen Street on the other? Well, it's not just a continuation of the Queen Street that's on the other side.
Right crosses the township border, where Queen Street comes up and then curves and goes up, what's the name, the Emerald. Where it curves and goes up, you go down a little bit further and then it goes into Zora, and everything from there on across the top, over
Okay.
right, and it's all in Zora.
If you back up from Zora Street and you're going up Queen Street, makes a sharp right-hand turn.
Yeah.
Queen Street actually continues right across, is it not?
It does on the plan, it's just that it doesn't continue across in Southwest Hartford, it goes into Zora.
Okay, I was up there and
Yep.
when you go up Raglan Street and the road curves to the left, the last house on the left, that's just before their driveway, and then right at that driveway, there's a sign there that says Zora Township. So actually, and then if you go to this last house, part 1, there's from the fence, where the farmer has his property, there's a gap past that house, which was supposed to be Queen Street, I guess. That's what they show here.
It is.
It is Queen Street. Queen Street goes right across, and the Zora boundary is on the south side of it until it gets over to almost Emerald Street. So we don't own any of that all the way over to where Queen Street turns, or yeah, Queen Street turns and goes into Emerald Street.
Well, just that this map says here it's continuing, it's just not open Queen Street.
I know, but we don't own it, so we can't do anything with it. So obviously, we can't sell it, probably better not sell it, and this is the fact, because we don't own it, so that's, for this council, that's a non-starter, yeah.
Okay, so what my problem is I wanted to purchase that 33 feet on my, abutting my property, but for her to put a driveway through there, that's impossible. So is there any way that she could maybe move the driveway up into this other area off of Raglan Street? Seems to be about 100 feet or so in there. It's only got one driveway on her existing driveway goes up there now. If she not put 2 driveways up there alongside the one she has, or use the same one, split them off after they get back there.
Well, then, yeah, the lot would be, a weird shape to get down to the bottom of the hill. You know, an awful lot of driveway to get down to the bottom lots, but, okay.
There'd be no more driveway actually than going in the other way. Just the corner of my property here. The houses are gonna be, probably the lot line's gonna be back behind that, I would imagine.
The,
If they actually can survey yet to know exactly where the pins are gonna be placed.
so the proposal that Mr. Pack has been talking about basically shows on your map. Give me a little leeway here, basically lot 143 and 144. That's,
Right,
that's basically where she wants to put the lot.
that's part of hers, yeah. I think she'll even take in probably part of 145 there, actually, or, yeah.
Could be, but hence the industry actually, for her perspective, makes sense. So I just, go ahead.
I just want to comment that the exact configuration of the lots, I think, really still needs to be determined. And what we're looking at tonight is that in order for her to proceed to the next step with a consent application, she needs to own that land, right? So I just didn't want to get into the details of what the lots would actually be, because we don't really know yet until she can go to the next steps and the surveying can be done.
So if, how's she gonna, all right, so why can't we not go up Raglan Street and enter in that way on her own driveway and split it off after it gets back there? They have two houses.
I've got that down as a comment here, so, and in terms of what we're trying to do tonight is collect the comments, and then
Okay.
council can deliberate on them, they may decide, some people tonight, or may decide that they want to, go away and think about it. So I'm more trying to collect comments and make sure that I've got down all of the concerns, and the staff have all the concerns, so the council knows what they're, deliberating on.
Yeah, it's just that I've been maintaining it anyway, the grass, keeping all the whips and everything down, so,
And we appreciate it.
no, I'm sure you did.
But, the land ownership laws say that, regardless of who takes care of any municipal or provincial or federal land, the municipality, still has full right and control over it.
Right, I understand that, yeah.
There's no squatters' rights, unfortunately, on, municipal, provincial, or federal land. So the other comment you made was about a dug, I'm assuming it's a dug well, instead of.
It's got tile, it's a dug well, yeah, so I don't imagine it's too deep. From my understanding, years ago, I was told that they were using that as a fresh water source.
Okay.
So,
I just wanted to make note of it because, it would be, if there were gonna be a lot there, it would be something, or two lots there, it would be something that council would want to consider about how is it properly abandoned, right, or covered over so that it doesn't create any problems. If in fact it's within these lots.
okay, but there again, if you just cover it over and then put tile beds in on top, it wouldn't be, or very close to, wouldn't be maybe feasible for anybody down below, if something got into their water.
And there again, the subject people are responsible for making sure that didn't happen,
Yeah.
but again, I'm just trying to collect the information and then, we can go from there, so. Did you have anything else, Mr. Ellis?
No, just, I'm interested in buying my own 33 feet, of course.
Okay,
That's it.
okay, thank you. Anyone else? Jared, come on up, please.
Hi, my name is Lisa, so my husband Chris, we're Clements, we live at 58 Oxford Street, at the bottom of the hill. So we have concerns, obviously, we do have drainage issues in our backyard right now. We've had it where it's really wet at the time, so we're worried about these noise coming into our yards and creating more drainage problems.
The area in question, or the laneways, is about a 15 to 20 degree slope. If through that whole area, then they would have to cut into the side of the hill. And we're concerned about the drainage. Is there going to be storm sewers? Both the laneways that they're proposing to put in would run right into our backyards if there's water running down. In the winter times, it's gonna have to be plowed There's significant drifting into that area, so if they're gonna plow, they're gonna have to plow down the laneway, and where's all the snow and everything gonna go when it melts? Our yard is right below that with about a 5-foot bank. And that whole, that one, yeah. This one?
Yep.
Yes, okay. That whole area that she's considering is like right from Raglan all the way in is about a 15-degree slope. I don't even know how they would manage putting laneways in there. We're gonna have a retaining wall, and like along Mr. Ellis's property, if there's cedar trees along there, like they're gonna have to cut into that and basically make a retaining wall along the whole section. I don't know how they would create 2 laneways on a 15-degree slope. And then there's gonna have to be storm sewers at the bottom of that, because we have significant water runoff into our yard already. We know that there is a well up, just like Mr. Ellis says, because we've had to pay for a portion of it in the past when our kids had, they're playing in the water around it. It's an artesian well, it perks right over the top. The water runs right over the top of the well. Now, there's lots of trees and foliage and everything in there, and it's helped over the years when it's grown in, that the water doesn't rush down off the hill. There's times when we can actually see the water from the well at the top edge of the bush lot of the road allowance. That whole area is all muddy in the spring, and it is significantly wet up there.
We obviously have issues with our concern with our wells as well, or we have a hand dug well.
Our well is the original well on that corner from the original farm that was there. It was dug in the late 1800s, is from what we were told. It's a hand dug well, and it's only about 35 feet deep. We have always had concerns about water at our place. Any new wells that go in the area, it's always been a concern, and we're not in a position where we want to have to redrill wells. We have heard in the past that it's hit and miss whether they can get water in that area. So.
Yeah, and who's gonna pay for that if that goes dry, right?
And because ours is a shallow well, we would have to probably go deeper. Now it's gonna mean a pump in the well, and we'd have to change our whole setup. So it's gonna cost us quite a bit if that happens.
And we also have concerns, there's some red mulberry bush trees back there. We discovered that they are just going to stink or whatever, so we're concerned about that. There's several of those back in the back property, several mature trees back there that, we don't really want to lose that. The privacy, the noise.
There's gotta be like over 100 trees through that little area of mature trees that I'm thinking would have to come down. Like, I don't know how they would do that, which is gonna increase the water runoff off that hill.
And we do want to purchase it. We've heard people have been refused before, so we have never tried to attempt to buy it, but yes, we are interested in buying it as well.
There's mature trees on the road allowance that you're talking.
Yep.
And
There's
mulberries on the road.
Yes.
And we've maintained that property for 27 years as well. We've cut the grass, we've planted several bushes and berry bushes and whatnot back there as
To
well.
help combat the water runoff from the hill. Just like Mr. Ellis says, and he's up on the top of the hill, he sees it off the side of that crown of that hill, and we see it come down to our side, and it's the whole length of the road allowance is a good 15 to 20 degree slope. Like it's significant.
Yeah.
And with the 2 laneways coming straight down off the hill, one into our yard and one into the adjoining beside us, we see nothing but runoff come down. If it's paved or something, it's gonna be really bad for us.
Had our quads get frozen in the water because we had so much water in the back.
Our shed's fill up with water in the back of our yard in the spring if we have the right runoff.
Okay, so we have a drainage issue already, you don't want to make it worse.
Definitely not.
All right. The red mulberry trees, species of this.
From what we've been reading, yes, they are. Red mulberry is an endangered
They're on
tree.
township property. that's
There are 2 or 3 of them back there from what we know.
Yeah.
There's one directly behind us that we know is a mulberry.
We want to buy the pieces directly behind you,
Yep.
Yes, just the attached.
just that one piece.
Just that's all
Yeah.
we want, yeah. We also think it's gonna depreciate our property value as well.
Significant.
Yeah.
So, little tree paradise back there right now.
Any questions from council? Yeah, oh, council, yes,
You mentioned a 15-degree slope on the property. Is that coming down toward Raglan or?
No, where she would enter off of Raglan?
Yeah.
That whole area is sloped down toward Oxford Street. That whole area slopes from left to right.
I gotta be honest, I'm from the south end of the township, so I don't know the area well, but.
You can drive by it, look
I
at
drive by there today,
it's a,
so.
it's a significant slope and it's even steeper, where you can see where the trees start. It's the grassed area at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then where the trees start, it even gets steeper.
And that slope.
And close to Mr. Ellis's property, it's gotta be a good 28 degrees.
We're on the other side, it's
Yeah.
exactly the same.
Yeah. Like it's significantly sloped through there. It's the steepest part of the hill, so.
Okay.
You would need to see it visually.
We're
then.
54, yeah, we're
Where are you on that?
54, right beside that,
East side?
on the east side.
Yeah.
Are you interested in buying your, behind you?
Sorry,
Are you interested in buying a parcel as well?
not right now, we'd be thinking about it. We don't,
So
we think, sure.
yeah, need names and addresses?
Nick and Nancy Johnson, house number 54. Oxford Street West,
City 54.
54, house
Yeah, thank
54.
you.
And they're planning to be above our place as well as theirs.
Yes. Any other comments from you? I'm just
I'm
making a list of everybody.
exactly what they're thinking and saying, that's what we're,
You're experiencing a water problem already?
There's a bit of a trail in the hill right down. It's a walking trail. I'm assuming from maybe the tracks coming down there or whatever. That area this spring was just running water straight out of there. We've got pictures that we can show if that's possible, but even just because it's a slight walking trail, the water tends to follow that. I think the laneways will do the same thing. We'll just rush it off the hill in the spring. And when it rains, if we get heavy rainfall. There would have to be storm sewer or something at the bottom, and I don't know how they would do that to connect to the town south, storm sewer that comes down Raglan.
Any other questions from council? We'll go.
Okay, so I looked up on the Endangered Species Act. A red mulberry refers to a small, medium-sized tree, not a bush. So it's a bush, it's not
So
endangered.
it's tree, it's probably 25 feet, 30 feet tall.
Oh, it's,
The one that's in our backyard, and the other ones, I'm not even sure which ones they are because I can't place them. Now, my boys say that they were given mulberries years ago from
behind it, towards the
three
right.
houses down from us, three properties to the east. There's supposed to be some behind there as well.
So red mulberry is listed under Schedule 1, species declared to be threatened with extinction regulation 328. But we have to do a little bit more digging on that because I'm not sure if it's something that's been planted by somebody or something that occurs as part of a tract. Like, anyway, we have to.
Yeah, we're trying to collect all the information, so we know what to do. So, and hence the idea of an endangered species, tree or otherwise, needs to be looked at as well. Any other comments from the four of you?
Yeah, very well, yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of wildlife there too, that would be
Well, it's common
eliminated,
GG
your
in the
building
backyard.
houses.
You know, near or,
Deer and owls and,
coyotes and everything else.
you don't need them, you don't need them.
Everything runs down.
Put up on the line for the restricted areas, is it, how far does it come over to? There's some of that land to the east is, protected, environmentally protected. Or whatever it is.
Where would we look to see pictures like what you're showing on the screen with all the lines and everything on it? They show the boundaries.
I can send you a link.
Thank you.
Counties, mapping website.
Yeah, we were trying to find, we had seen some of it before, but we couldn't find it again.
Dark green, I understand, is the significant woodlands, and then the yellow is significant valleylands.
The bright.
Oh, the bright yellow, this one here, not this.
Yes. So the two lots have to fit between Mr. Ellis's lot, is there are going to be two lots, they have to fit between Mr. Ellis's lot and the dark green. Right? Go ahead, Laura.
Part of any development application, if it's near, neighboring, adjacent to, nearby, what we consider significant heritage features, which you're seeing up on this map here. A study called an environmental impact assessment is required. In our official plan, we have policies that outline what's required. We have lots of guidelines. I won't go through all that now, but what that study does is, this is our, I don't wanna say best guess, but this is what we know of for environmental features right now, based on studies and aerial photography. An environmental impact study is done to confirm what we see here, to make sure that what we think is accurate is actually accurate. So people will assess the wildlife habitat, they'll assess the tree species, the vegetation species, a number of different factors. And basically assess the building envelope, and if there are any mitigation factors, so if anything has to be done to ensure that damage does not take place. So what is reasonable, basically? So this is what we know right now. If development is proposed adjacent, nearby to these features, we require an environmental impact study before things go any further. I don't know if that's helpful or not. I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything further? Councilor Evans.
So just for clarification on this plate, then Julie, the dark green is significant woodland?
Just to be clear, those two houses have to fit where? On that light green?
Through you, Mayor Melbury, Mayor, I've got.
Oh, very good.
Endangered species you are.
Yes, I am.
Yes, pending the results of an environmental impact study that would confirm the boundaries and the significance of it. So, yeah, and as Julia said, you know, the plans are preliminary at this point, so I don't want to get too caught up in absolute hard lines. So pending the results of a study, that would define exactly where those features are.
Okay, because I'm sitting here thinking, that's awful narrow for two lots. So
that's part of the through Mayor Mayor, there we go. That is part of the planning process for any development proposal. If it's near an environmental, a natural heritage feature, this would be part of the process.
Okay. Anything from you? Does anyone else in the public too?
How come that the lady got already a price on $58,000?
because we have a price of $2.21
I know,
a square foot, so
that's right, but why didn't we get noticed that we could buy it too? How could she buy it,
That's
and
what
we
this
cannot
is.
buy it?
that's what tonight's about.
Yeah.
We're telling you that's, and again, trying to explore what are all the options so council can make a decision.
Like,
Council
we should have a chance to buy this half our own.
Well, you might think that, but the law says the township can do whatever it wants.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, I just,
Yeah.
that's the reality, that the township, does not have to offer it to any one party.
How come those studies weren't done before all the blueprints came out already? Environment was study before you people already said, okay, you could build that.
No, nobody said you can build there.
No, but
There-
all the drawings are there.
But the drawings are simply a proposal. You can draw anything you want on a piece of paper, doesn't mean it's gonna happen. So, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, like, as Mayor Mayberry mentioned, that's just a proposal, there's no current active development application. And in order to proceed to the next steps, the land that would be part of the application is currently owned by the township, would have to be owned by, Ms. Matap. So that's why this step is taking place first. Because it can't go further if she doesn't own the land.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak? Or, if you don't mind, we'll let other people, any comments or questions?
Let it go.
Entirely up to you. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, pardon. Just checking. Questions here. The number of issues, what's the wish of council? Go ahead, Council.
Mr. Mayor, we have two purchasers for the same property. What's the, that's one issue. I think the other ones can be dealt with separately. Sealed bid, what's the process?
I think that's, where I would suggest that I've got a whole list of issues here that need to be clarified. And, I would wonder if, go ahead, Councilor, I don't know.
I don't need to interrupt, but I'm just wondering if we could defer this pending a staff report that addresses all the concerns that we've heard tonight.
Basically, I was gonna suggest we defer to give the council a chance to, think about everything you've heard and to get, some of the feedback on the concerns that were raised. So the issue of, there's already water coming out of the hill. But that's natural free flowing water. Does this make it better or worse? One might assume it makes it better or worse, and a low drainage might make it better. So I don't know, but those are the kind of things I think we need to be able to address. And we'll let I guess I'll let council tell me what you want to do. Councilor Gillis.
Yeah, I kind of agree deferring at this time would probably be a good idea. For not only just for us to kind of digest what was discussed from the other residents around, but also the person planning this to their proposal, to talk with staff and planning further, to make sure this is the road that they want to continue on.
Okay. The motion to defer.
Yeah.
Seconded. I appreciate you got this list down. But just to make sure, trying to go through here. Issue about potential impact to a well, current wells, the issue of the dug well that's somewhere on the tax property now, whether it's inside or outside of any potential loss. One-off issue Septic. I think we dealt with potential access to clean, but we didn't deal with potential access to the driveway. Proximity of the tile beds to boundary issues. Purchase requests in the past. The drainage issues, that's something I suppose for Daniel to worry about. The issue was raised about how to deal with snow and not piling on the neighbors, but then runoff effect of snow and snow plowing. The red mulberry trees and species at risk, and are they on the township property? If they're not on township property, we don't have to worry about them. More of the purpose. And then there was drainage issues again. Yeah, sewage, water problems already in the area, so you've got all that, and well, thank you. Okay, is there anything else, Councillor Pickard?
Yeah, we had the suggestion that there was an alternative driveway. I don't really think I understand that. But, I think with Mr. Ellis that suggested there might be another.
So do you want to show on?
I do have that noted as well,
Yes.
to consider whether there's alternative locations that could provide access. So there was some discussion about possibly providing access this way. Is that, like, this is the existing driveway now? So something along the existing driveway to provide access? Right. So I have that noted as well.
So these are issues to explore, not necessarily issues that we can do.
Right.
Right, so the second, they're right back to you. So anything further? No, sorry.
No.
So the idea was, could you in fact get off of Raglan Street and get down to this hill rather than win Henrietta? Which would, unfortunately, the house, packed house, would make it really difficult to get down between the house and the next door neighbor's lot. But so. Anything further? Councillor Goodman.
I'd just like to comment that I've appreciated the tenor of today's discussion. A lot of issues raised, but raised very civilly, and I appreciate that, and I thank you all for your participation.
No, we haven't go yet, don't worry. Well, I just wanted to make sure. Mr. John, what you wanted to say?
Yeah, how about the question about the garbage? Maybe the long laneway and those two houses. There's big garbage trucks backing in, or he drives in and won't be able to turn around.
Oh, no, the garbage trucks will not be going in any driveways. They don't go in any other driveways, they're not going in that one.
You know how far it is. So-
That's not my problem.
No, but township.
No, the township will not go in there. If this property were to be sold, it would be private land, and we don't go on private land to pick up garbage. You gotta put it out at the edge of the road, so that people would have to bring their garbage out to the edge of the road. Same as everybody else in the town.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything further on this?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Look at drainage. If you're gonna drain, you're gonna look at that, if you're gonna drain the water off the hill behind the lots there, you're gonna have to run the water eastward towards your existing creek, just on the property next to myself, which is 44. And that's the only way you could possibly get rid of that water, from my experience. You have to run drainage all the way down into that creek, and I believe the township, if I heard you correctly earlier, the township owns a strip of that land before the creek, or where the creek is. So if that was the case, the township would have to agree to allow Mrs. Pack to have the drainage runs right through their property. Because if not, then the water's gonna end up behind properties like my own and 44.
So I'm not gonna predispose what somebody's gonna say about drainage, because that's not my bailiwick, but whether the water would go east or west.
Would have to go east, I'm telling you now, I know from experience, but anyway, I'm not gonna argue that.
No, I'm not either, I just.
Yeah, I'm just pointing that out.
I have a question. The, where Henrietta goes to, Raglan, there's a bank out there about 15 feet. Down to the asphalt. So, you know, put driveways in there, you're starting off right at the edge of the road, and you've got 15 feet. It's just a gradual slope right to the back. So there's no way you can drain anything towards, Raglan, unless they dig the whole thing out. Then when they dig that out, I'm gonna have to put a 20-foot tank, and somebody's gonna have to reinforce my lot.
People can't do anything on your property. Just.
They'll have to build themselves a stent wall down there. Wanna keep it up.
Anyway, okay, anything further? Okay, well, thank you very much, and everyone signed in. And therefore, staff will have access to your address to send out the next notice of any time that we, or when we get to any further discussion on it. So, a number of issues here that may take a couple of weeks to solve very well. Councilor, first comes you. Don't worry, I just want to make sure that we didn't have anything further to add before we go. So, okay, so the motion on the floor is to defer and with a list of things for staff to explore. Wants to do the list again. Laurel, is there anything you wanted to comment?
I would like to comment that we have communicated with Ms. Shack, a number of times, so we are in communication, and there are no active planning applications at this time, just to be clear.
Seeing that, any further comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, that's great. So it's deferred until further notice. You will get no further notice. Okay. Thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you very much.
I think we're on the March 4th, Super Minor Ball Association sign fence advertising campaign. And Julie, do you want to comment on that report?
I'll just note that this also was deferred at the March 4th meeting to tonight's meeting, pending confirmation from Speaker Parks and Recreation Committee that they are in support of the request. I have confirmed with the committee that they are. And I also just want to clarify that the advertising would take place from April through to September of each year. I wasn't sure if that was clear, so just want to clarify that as well, and if there's any further questions in that case.
Okay. So, there was a question last week, we just wanted to, our last meeting, want to make sure that the Parks Committee was aware and were supportive, so. We have a motion now. Moved by Clerk, seconded by Gillis. Result of the Council of Township Supervisors to report CO 15-2025 special minor ball association funds and sign advertising campaign with information and further the council to request from Super Minor Ball Association to allow for sponsorship advertising at the Super Ball back subject to compliance with the township signing policy. And further, the council authorized an amendment to the township's fee and charges bylaw to appropriate sponsorship opportunities at Super Ball back. The staff will direct the board to Super Minor Ball Association to ensure that proper implementation compliance with the township's approved sign policy as outlined in this report. Go ahead, Councilor.
I just wanted to be clear in the motion that it was from April to September. The motion doesn't say that.
You want that amendment? So it's now in from April to September.
Because I think we're gonna get into some issues with some people who don't want to see this advertising. Some of the feedback that we get. So, make it clear that.
Okay, so it's been amended to include advertising Diamond from April to September annually, subject to compliance with township sign policy. Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. We need confirmation for the drainage tender for the paper drain. We have a mover on that, moved by Dell, second by Yep. So the council of town Pacific Properties report BDO 5/2025 confirmation of drainage tender for paper drain for information further that the tender submitted by Robinson Farm Drainage in the amount of $451,734.20 plus HST. Make total $510,233.64 for the construction of paper drain be approved. Any discussion? Council Young.
Little bit good news on that, the tenor came in lower than expected, so.
You will get this. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Now, TR 02/2025. Motion there. Moved by Becker, seconded by Wade. So, Council Township, the property procedure report under TR 02/2025. That statement of council remuneration and expenses 2024 for the year ending December 31st, 2024 is information discussion. Council, yes.
Well, it's just interesting to note that jointly we reached the sunshine list, but individually not even close, so.
That's one way to look at it. Taking income tax off of those, it'd be along with some of the sunshine months. So, anyways, any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. And treasury report, overtime costs, do we move on a second for this report? Moved by Yip, seconded by Thurston, result of council report number TR 03/2025. Any comments? Sure. Okay, anything you want to say, Marielle? Okay, Councilor Gill.
Just a comment or question, it would be nice to know whether this is the trend of the last few years or from the past year, or whether it was the same ballpark, just, it'd be good to know.
I can tell you, 2023 grand total was $48,209, and this year we're at $42,000.
Probably more interested in hours than there are dollars. That gives an indication of how close are we to another employee, not that any one employee would be able to fit all of those.
2023 was 876 hours total.
Good. Anything further in this report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, that's good. Next one, number 8, discussion items. The request to use the reservoir. Okay, so it's not so yet, okay. Any discussion on this or anything? Okay, I'm sure.
I can speak to this, Mr. Mayor. I've been in contact with Heinrich Strauss. They are currently trying to build a fairly sizable addition onto their processing plant. And they are working with RSM on this project, and RSM is requiring on-site water for firefighting. And the yard is quite limited in space, especially when you consider truck traffic that has to come in and out. They don't want to have a water storage facility underneath any drivable area, obviously. And so they are wondering if it would be acceptable to consider the township cistern that's going to be placed at Elgin Drive and non-Elgin Road as servicing their property. They have offered to help with funding of that cistern if it needs to be upsized in order to be able to service their property. And they have also offered in the event that they would need to access that water, that they have access to tanker trucks that would be able to refill almost as quickly as it's being drawn in.
Yeah, John, comment?
Oh.
Okay. So there's two issues here. One is a requirement under the building code saying you gotta have on site water. And the other issue is, do we have extra capacity or enough capacity there?
Yeah, through the chair to council. Yeah, there's a couple of issues that I gleaned from this. One is the request is pretty vague. It doesn't really explain the nature of until you just said, hey, they're looking to do an expansion. So this actually falls under the OBC. They determine the water requirements, so the Ontario Building Code and the chief building official will have to decide those requirements. We can't just say they're not required or you have to use it. So I would suggest that this needs to go before the chief building official first for any of those discussions for weigh-in. This isn't my call, so to speak. This would be the CEO's.
So we don't know how much water is required.
No, that would be an engineer.
Yeah, I was just gonna clarify, so it is an Ontario Building Code requirement due to the size of their, the total size of their building once they do this addition. And so they can propose an alternative to the chief building official, but it has to meet or exceed the requirements of the building code. So council could agree to this, but it still has to be reviewed by the chief building official for them to say yes or no. And as I mentioned, it has to meet or exceed the requirements of the building code. And the amount of water that's required is up to the developer, so the property owner's engineer, they have to determine the amount of water that's required for the size of the building. And then that gets submitted to our chief building official to review.
So they need, the straw boss needs to determine the volume of water that might need to be in the.
That's right.
Okay, their engineer.
So the fire flows, their firefighting flow requirements, that's what they need to determine.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand because the request doesn't say we need X amount and we have Y, so we don't know what those numbers are. Councilor, you have the next.
So the Sprawless's engineer that they've retained is of the opinion that on-site water is not necessary for that project.
So you need to start the building official then.
And that's where they're running into significant opposition.
Go ahead, Marilyn.
Okay, so I think there's a lot more to this than a property. So Mount Elgin is a service village. Their municipality is hoping for growth within that service village. So there may be more people coming to the table to make this request. It won't be just the one business. There will be more coming forward. So why this doesn't help at this point in time, I think we need to take a broader approach on how this is going to be managed. So should we be looking at some type of reservoir for water for this purpose that can be drawn on by, like we have the tanks or tank right now, another one's going to be out of 80,000 gallons or liters, I can't remember what it is, but there is, I have concern just that this is beginning a process where there's gonna be other ones coming. And there is another proposal that could very well be coming to council on this to draw on those tanks. The tanks are put in the ground for readier access for firefighting for the entire village. And the decision as far as the engineer and the CBO, certainly that's something that has to be worked out between the two of them. But ultimately, the CBO gets to make the decision on what that is. So I just think that while we're talking about this, we need to look at, there's going to have to be potentially some other solution moving forward where we don't keep hitting, and the businesses don't keep hitting this wall as part of the process.
Just also the report that I brought forward earlier this year about the changes to the Ontario Building Code, there are a lot of changes when it comes to fire fire safety and fire suppression, particularly for agricultural and industrial buildings. And they are gonna have significant cost implications when it comes to development or expansion of those facilities. And that's nothing that, you know, it's not due to who our chief building official is, that's just what changes came through the Ontario Building Code this year.
So it would seem like the first issue is some kind of agreement on how much water is required. And then the next one would be, and what that water be located. Councilor Bill.
Yeah, I agree with your thoughts, Mr. Mayor. I just have another follow-up question. The tank hasn't been installed yet, correct? Do we know for sure whether there is, just planning ahead with growth now, the previous tank, there wasn't enough room for that one decided. This one, is there enough room there that if ever we needed another tank or needed a larger water storage, is there more space there available?
There's two million shaded and
Through the mayor and council, actually, we had a discussion today, myself, Adam, and we're here chatting about that cistern going in there. And there looks to be that there probably would be some room beside there to add on if required. But there's still a requirement for the owner to have on-site water. They have to get through the building, the building code requirements. You'll still have to meet those requirements as well. Well, this is the firefighting water supplementary to whatever water that they're required for their, whatever risk they're bringing to the community with whatever process or building they're actually introducing into the community.
So do they actually have to have on-site water or access to water?
Again, here's what I would say, that's a building code question, I'm not your building
So
code
then
expert.
that's the next question, the answer is that the on-site, or do they simply have to have access to it?
The building code requirement is that it's on site.
That it's on-site. That would be a report.
As I mentioned, they can propose an alternative, but the chief building official has to review and accept that as.
Councilor.
I realize that this is not council's issue, nor is it staff's issue. I will say that time is of the essence in this matter. The equipment that's meant to go into the proposed new construction is already on site. And there is an extremely large backlog of customers for the business that are waiting on product that may go elsewhere if they don't get product on time. And I recognize that that is not council's responsibility, but it is a aggravating factor, let's say.
Go ahead. Right. Okay, yeah.
Well, I'm a builder.
Oh,
I understand the code, I know.
okay,
I'm just here for another question we got.
okay, so, we need to find out whether or not the engineer has had a discussion directly with the, Sam regarding what they're saying. If the engineer is saying, we don't need any on-site water, they're gonna have to satisfy the chief building official, because I've got the Ontario Building Code section 3.2.5.7. The water supply is required to be on the property for the building that it is required for. So that's pretty straightforward as far as the code goes.
So would on the property be on the north side of the road, or if they own land on the south side, it could be out there?
So it's required to be on the property for the building that it is required for. So that to me
Sound
is,
like it has been, I just want, they own some, don't they own some land on the south
They
side?
own the rail siding on both sides of the
Right.
railroad opposite there, and that would be
I was
plan
just
B.
trying to think of another way.
That would be plan B. But they also hope to use some of that area for heavy truck parking,
Yeah,
so.
go ahead, Councilor.
Just in regards to the engineer, from Straw Bus, he's, taking issue with the requirement on two fronts. One, that the building is undersized for requiring on-site water. And two, that the nature of the business is such that it doesn't fall under that requirement in the building code.
They need to talk.
Yeah. So we'll leave this for staff to, continue pushing along. Anything further on this?
No, just if I need to do anything further on this, the staff.
For then, agenda items, correspondence. Oh,
Go ahead, in addition to discussion items.
pardon?
I had it in addition to
Yeah,
discussion.
we're at that in new business, so.
Okay, sorry.
Agenda items, correspondence. 41 to 44. Did you have something for us all? You're just enjoying the night,
I thought it was important when I heard a fulsome council meeting and got to know council and staff better.
Thanks very much.
It's, yeah, that's a genuine comment.
Hopefully she won't be disappointed with that.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being here, so.
Thank you, Mayor Lord.
That's all the more worse or better. Agenda items 41 to 44. Councillor Gillis. No file. No file. Councillor Yusman, you second that?
Yep.
Any discussion? Councillor Pickard.
I'd just like to point out the good news on the greenhouse gas emissions report. It continues to be headed in the right direction. So that, we spent some dollars over the years on practically all these buildings at one time or another, and we've done electrical audits, we've done insulation audits. We spent some money, it's paying off, not in a big way, but it's trending very nicely.
Well, keep up the good work.
Yeah, give yourself a pat on the back.
41 to 44, open file. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Accounts payable. Moved by Way, seconded by Thurston. Here. And the result of following accounts be approved for payment account payable from March 7th to March 15th, 2025, $506,465.41. Serial number 5 general, $65,807 for the bill is $126,307.48. Any discussion on that? None, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Information and correspondence, 45 to 52.
No file.
Moved by Pickard, second by Thurston, 45 to 52 be noted in file. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We're down to bylaws, and bylaw 20 and 22. Anything on that?
I do know that the amending zoning bylaw is quite late. They were waiting on survey, and that was the reason for the delay. So we have the schedules prepared for that one now, and it is coming forward. It is from our 2020 application. And then I made the changes to the subdivision agreement that we discussed last week. And I discussed those changes with Brian Graydon, and he was agreeable to the offset limit of 30,000. And so I made those changes in there, and I've updated the attached amended schedule A.
Any questions on any of that? Seeing none, we have a motion for first and second reading. Moved by Pickard, seconded by Way. Reading will be.
Resolved that the following bylaws be introduced and that they be read a first and second time. Bylaw number 2025 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of subdivision agreement with Mount Elgin Developments for Mount Elgin Heights subdivision. Bylaw number 2025 being a bylaw to amend Township of Oxford zoning bylaw for zone change application CN 41914.
Any discussion on first and second reading? Seeing none, all those in favor? opposed. And third and final reading, moved by Gillis, second by, Becker.
Resolved that bylaws 20, 20, 25, and 22, 2025 be read a third time and finally passed, that the mayor and clerk are authorized to sign the bylaws and affix the corporate seal.
Any discussion? None, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Committee reports, we have a motion for the two committee meetings, moved by Yvonne, second by Gersten. Any discussion on those two? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. You received this information. New business, Councilor, you want to talk about annual workshop?
Yeah, so I was going through some of the emails a couple of days ago. They're offering a number of workshops online. They're kind of pricey. They're about $500 each. And after the first two, the rest are all half price. And so I wondered if there was any other councilors that were interested in taking any further training, and B, is there any room in the budget to accommodate that, since we didn't include it as part of the budget discussion last fall? We only included one attendance at Roma, I believe, for this year. And so just wondering what the process is there. When I go through the list, there's about 3 that I would be interested in potentially. 1 in April and 2 in June.
That's what it is. Okay, so you make contact with Rayon and Julie and sign up if you want. I guess everybody's saying no, so. Okay. Next, council roundtable and then we'll close session. Okay. So, council roundtable. Councilor Way, you're kind of quiet tonight. Anything you want to comment on the deep south?
The weather's great. Friday afternoon, we watched the spacecraft take off. It was kind of interesting. And then this afternoon at 4:30, Elon Musk sent another one up. We didn't go out to the beach to watch it. And then at 5:57, the 2 astronauts that have been stranded up in the space station for 9 months, they landed in the Gulf. So a lot of space activity going on around it down here right now. Other than that, it's a great place to be, nice and warm. So yeah. And as far as busy in the Ward 4, I have a whole board meeting on the 1st of April on the Tuesday night, same day as our next council meeting. I will be back on Monday so I can attend Upper Thames on Tuesday. And yeah, so it's pretty good down here. And in Ward 4.
Good. Well, safe journeys on the way home.
Thank you.
Ward 6. Councilor Gillis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not quite as warm as Ward 4, but pretty good. Museum had their the board meeting there a week ago, and also had the Historical Society's AGM there a week ago. All positive news from the past year with all the events and whatnot that's been going on. Work is progressing for this year, planning car shows again and other events that are happening there. Planning is working with, in collaboration with Parks and Rec, the museum, and the firefighters, hopefully for another Easter event there at the museum this year. So that's progressing forward, and everything else seems pretty good right now.
And Ward 3.
Ward 3, very quiet. There was a self-recall board meeting, went very well. First time it was at home. And they're planning a dinner in April, and more will come after our next meeting.
Ward 2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fairly quiet in Ward 2 as well. Long Point Region had their AGM a week and a half ago. That went over very well. Durham Center Hall Board has their AGM tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in Durham Center at the hall, of course. And I look forward to that. And other than that, there's not a whole lot going on. Parks and Rec is starting discussions about potential cleanup around the Bell Diamond And we're gonna be working on trying to get those basketball nets up around the most purpose for it soon.
Ward five.
I'm very quiet. We did have a rural auction economic development corporation meeting. It was virtual, so I was able to attend. Get our year-end numbers, again, pretty good numbers, seem to have helped a lot of businesses over the years. Rhonda is gonna come and visit with council and talk about accomplishments of 2024. We're also planning to maybe refocus how we do things. We're going to do a strategic plan, and again, you're going to talk to council and to see if there's anything you'd like to see us do differently, or something that we should be doing that we're not doing, that type of thing. So look forward to that this summer. Had quite a meeting yesterday about Trilly Mowing. A lot of potholes and mud and water laying on the road, so and I took on some of the neighbors and Adam did a pretty good job. Of course, we started, they wanted the road paved, so we had the numbers with us, convinced them it's not going to be paved. But it looks like we are going to have to do some kind of work on it, because the road does need some some grading at a minimum, and maybe some more ground. Otherwise, we had quite a discussion about signage at the ballpark, the proposal to sell. We appreciate it being sent back. I think that was the right thing to do. Parks and Recreation didn't know about it, but we weren't asked our opinion. It's just, so it's nice to have it come back and maybe set the tone for how things should be done. And as I said, I don't think people want to see those signs up every year. Like it's a nice ballpark, and we all want to cover the signage. So I think this April to September thing's a good deal. Otherwise, that's it.
Okay, well, I think county, well, county did support the increase of bag tags from 2 to January 1st, 2026. Either that or 1.8% increase in county taxes because of the differential $2. So anybody that's out buying garbage or meat less is further had to have it on their taxes. So then there's we're showing them the tag that is on the back. The only thing I was going to mention is yesterday, went to the Electrical Distribution Association meeting in Toronto, their annual meeting, and so there was a really good speaker, electricity and energy and all that sort of stuff. Fascinating sort of things going and how we're going to get there and the complexity of dealing. Anyway, one of the quick facts that kind of caught me completely off guard was they were talking about the impact of AI. And when they, they're talking about how you can use AI in so many of the figuring out how to make connections and not make connections and all those sort of stuff. Anyway. But one of the speakers was saying that people don't realize how much energy AI uses, and that if you use AI, it uses, I think it was 5 or 6 times more energy than doing a Google search. That's because the amount of distance out it goes to pick up information back for the same thing. Just, anyways, what you're saying is that people don't even think about that, right? You Google search or you use AI or you get on a chat or something, and I think what it speaks for you all that. He said people have no idea how much electricity that actually uses. I had never even thought about that. Ever in my life, I've never thought about it. But like, I don't do these because I've tested it, but I don't thought that. Yeah, it's sucking up energy like crazy. They said that was as much as people that were getting more efficient. That area alone is sucking out more and more energy every day.
So is that a domestic problem or is that more of a worldwide type problem?
That's a worldwide, and the exponential use of it. It really started yet, right? And so they were just, anyways, they were saying, you know, people talk about the increased use of energy. And I think he was kind of warning us that if you think 75% increase we're gonna see in consumption of energy, you know, like, it's not even close. So it's, depending on how quickly and how widely the world adopts AI.
Sorry, that just leads back to my question again, is it domestic or worldwide? Because if I'm sitting on my computer and I've got it turned on and I do an AI search, let's say, as opposed to a Google search, so worldwide it's drawing me a lot of power, but that might be a problem in India per se, not necessarily here in Ontario. So does our grid need to be able to withstand all of that, or is only a small portion of it actually going to be localized?
So, right, except that the percentage being used in Ontario is going to expand 6 times. So even if it's only 1%, it's going to go from 1% to 6%. That's, it was one of those weird things that you never hear anybody talk about until you got people like that that are kind of into all that. I just thought it was fascinating.
They recorded 60 minutes actually this past weekend on Google and Facebook going into nuclear power. They're investing heavily $90 million in nuclear power for AI. Even they're looking at Green City, 3 Mile Island. Yeah.
What is it too?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so, and also reminding people who might Bitcoin, and people are out there doing that. Because I know someone from Montreal who's testing us that they're in shorts and t-shirts in the middle of winter, the best, no heat turned on, from the energy and heat coming off the CPUs. So the energy burn is phenomenal.
It was just one of those little tidbits that you sort of pick up and think, good for all. I'll leave it at that. We went to closed session, so let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll go into closed session.
Yes.
So we'll have that be closed session. Is there anything to be? Oh, work.
Good, I talked to you, Billy, come tonight.
Yes. But that was about straw box.
No, no, we're just trying to get it back.
Oh, great. Okay. So we won't go into closed session. Wait, I apologize. I've written it down and finished it wrong. And, or I was at another meeting. So, all right, we'll deal with that as soon as we get this quick break. Some of us need to watch. Sorry.
Or Parks and Rec. Yeah. Just look at everything in the text message, so can you just pass it on to her?
Oh, so probably she just wants to know you need to put in Bible.
Yeah, there's 2 of us.
Yes.
Here. I texted him last week to get things rolling again, and I haven't gotten a response yet, so hopefully it's still me and Garrett, but I'm not really certain just yet.
Always having to be way. Was it mentioned that it's added tonight? So the AGM is already last.
Do you remember Happy Life, Happy Life?
The only time that actually
Really? That's a thing?
do the meeting.
It used to be.
I don't know what it is now.
Easter egg hunt.
Oh, okay.
So I forgot to.
So far, I'm getting by.
We'll need an AGM later.
Solve your traffic problem and do stuff.
What traffic problem? Send them a sweeper?
It's going too slow.
You should go to Sarasota where the Amish have their bicycles, tricycles, that's the neighborhood we had our cottage in.
Yeah.
And they ride 4 wide on the road, and they all have electric motors on their tricycles. And they go like in the wind, so you gotta have eyes everywhere. Oh, God,
Oh, what they do at Great Britain in some of the villages. Put a stop sign right in the middle of. Hold on, no. But not at an intersection.
But not at intersection. Does anybody
So
stop
the
that?
stop sign is here. They have a sensor way back here. If you're speeding at that sensor, that light turns red.
on the other way, the other way.
The way you're facing. So you have to stop. And that trains people to know when they hit that sensor, better to go on the speed limit or the light's gonna turn red.
That's kind of cheating.
Huh?
Well, you gotta hand it to.
That's interesting.
There's 12 Sherman, County's gonna work on their programs here and other villages, so we'll see how that comes out. Reflecting speeding and delineators and curb bump outs. I haven't heard how their possible project is done, but.
Okay, so I apologize, Mr. Brennan?
Yeah.
I told this afternoon when I was in another meeting, and then I went to another meeting, and now I completely forgot, so I apologize for that. Your request is for us to use, or run a truck up to suck a hole out for a hydro pool?
Yeah,
Oh, was it Gentle Line?
General Line, so it's basically, I mean, long story short, is I wanna get a final inspection on this property. It's my son here. So we've done the farm meeting up top of the hill, we're back feeding the hydro, and I mean, this is a hydro one, we paid this back in November, this should have been done. Right, so now we're dealing with, so they're supposed to come in and do it, now we got half load seasons, now they want to delay it again unless I get the exemption. I asked Ken Farkas, see how he'll give it an exemption along as, Adam would do it. So I talked to Adam today, he's like, well, I can't do it, the council can do it, because basically Zenda Line, what they just paved is Norwich Township. But the problem with light poles on the other side of the road. And I know it's politics, all we need to go down is once, sock it out, put the post in, that's it.
So Zenda's controlled side of the road, sorry, not Zenda,
South
North is,
No, southwest of us.
it's no, it's our side of the road, but is it a road that, Norwich is responsible for bringing?
Us North Town just paid pavement, because I know we took the dirt, we took all the dirt of that road, because Norwich Township paid from Ryan, which then our canal to the ninth. You guys paid ninth to a couple of years ago to the Post Banner Road, right? We just repaid it, literally.
So anyways, generally the answer would be no, but if it's a Norwich maintained road.
What did Adam say that?
So Adam said it's not his jurisdiction to give the relief. Yeah, it's up to council. So Ken said, yes, so Ken says to me, you get the approval from Southwest Oxford, I'll allow it on one condition, I know the day you're gonna do it. Like, you can't be running this back, which we understand, we're not running this back up and down the road. You're gonna literally notify him when we're gonna put that hydro pole in, he knows the date we're gonna put it in. And he said the same thing, like, don't try to hold it off as long as you can, so get a date. So I would reach out to Hydro One again, we got a confirmation last week, okay, when are you simply coming? Which they're not gonna be there tomorrow. He said, and then give us the date and we will make sure we know that you're coming to put that post in. He said, I know, under the law, both of them said, it says you're allowed to put, for hydro and gas, there's an exemption. He said the gray area is the back truck. but you need the back truck to the hydro one. So it gets complicated.
Whoa.
Yeah, to put the post in.
So,
And we don't have proper hydro and he's living in there. So, I mean, we shouldn't be doing this, but the end of the day, he got very good. He had to get out. So he's living up there, but we don't have proper hydro speed. And I need the hydro switch done so I can finalize and give him the mortgage. I'm paying for, I own the property now.
so I'm just, I guess to me, if Adam is okay with, because we don't maintain the road, with allowing Norwich to say it's okay, I would be all right with it. Because it is kind of a unique situation where we're actually not responsible for maintenance stuff. Or,
I don't know. I haven't.
okay, so
No,
I
'cause
guess I'm
we dug
looking for
across-
council's direction here.
I dug across the road before we paved it
Oh,
for the hydro. I did all that. So Ken allowed us to do that. He said, as long as you pay for it, I don't get a bill for it, I don't care, because that's ours. He said, it's like Norwich. So when we put all the infrastructure that's under the road, we dug right across the road ourselves before they put asphalt on. We redid the whole road. As long as we cover the cost, that's how I know it's maintained by Norwich. And Ken told me today too, he's like, if you can do it for me, but he said, I gotta get confirmation
That's being fair.
from Adam, because he said, you know, we gotta do this together. He said, or he said, I can let you go up there and just didn't say, see, you probably wouldn't get caught. I'm like, no, at the end of the day, we said, follow the channels, we'll call the mayor, and we'll just deal with it right. I don't care.
when somebody does get caught.
Yeah,
It's way
So-
better than it works.
I'm just wondering, is this something that you follow up with Adam? Make
Talk
sure,
to Adam.
and have Adam talk to Norwich.
Does he have your contact information?
Yeah, he did call me today, so I
Okay,
can
good.
give it to you, I mean,
No, that's okay. I'll talk to Adam first thing in the morning. We'll get this resolved.
yeah, and then Ken, he said, then they'll just reach to the two of them, and then.
Yep.
We're going in, put one pole in, that's it.
So before we do that, I gotta make sure council's okay with it. So council Gillespie.
So that's what I was asking, so you need our support.
Yep.
So I move. Well, I would direction the staff to approve this one-off. Yeah, with the.
Yes, Adam.
Adam agrees. There you go.
So we'll be in touch tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so is that agreeable with the rest of council?
I just appreciate the honesty.
Well, occasionally it happens.
Yeah, I know. So it's all rare.
Counselor, Clerk, you're all right with it?
Yes.
Adam's all right?
Yeah.
Okay, getting that, Pearson, Counselor Wood? Yeah, okay. All right, again, I apologize for, I wrote it down on a piece of paper and I was talking to somebody else. And I know what the piece of paper is, but it's in a, anyway.
Yeah, no problem, we appreciate it.
All right, thanks very much for your patience.
Thank you.
Okay, so, now we need to go to closed session. We motion from close. And Gillis, all right. And this is about, identifiable individuals.
Yes.